What if I told you that one of history's most powerful queens had teeth so black and rotten that courtiers physically recoiled when she spoke? Picture this. A woman who ruled an empire for 45 years, defeated the Spanish Armada, and transformed England into a global superpower. Yet she was terrified of water, poisoned herself daily with toxic makeup, and lived in palaces that literally smelled like sewers. Welcome to the shocking world of Queen Elizabeth I's personal hygiene, where beauty was deadly, cleanliness was optional, and power meant never admitting you were human. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtains on 5 absolutely disgusting hygiene secrets of the Virgin Queen. By the end of this, you'll never complain about your morning shower routine again. The sweet addiction that rotted her royal smile. Let's start with something that might make your dentist faint. Queen Elizabeth I was completely addicted to sugar. In the 1500s, sugar wasn't just rare, it was astronomically expensive. It came from distant colonies, cost more than most people earned in a year, and was the ultimate status symbol. While peasants might never taste it in their entire lives, Elizabeth consumed it obsessively. Every royal meal featured elaborate sugar creations, candied violets, sugar-covered fruits, intricate marzipan sculptures, desserts dripping with syrup. Sugar wasn't just in desserts either. It was added to wines, stews, salads, and even medicines. But here's where things get revolting. Elizabeth believed sugar had medicinal properties, so she actually brushed her teeth with a sugar-based paste. Yes, you read that right. She was using the very substance destroying her teeth to try to clean them. She also used gritty powders that scraped away her tooth enamel like sandpaper. The results were catastrophic. By the 1590s, foreign visitors were writing home about the shocking state of the Queen's mouth. A German traveler named Paul Hensner described the 65-year-old Elizabeth with brutal honesty, noting her narrow lips and teeth that were completely black. He specifically blamed it on English obsession with sugar. Other eyewitnesses reported that many of her teeth were missing entirely, broken, or so decayed they were just hollow stumps. Her breath was so foul that people standing near her felt physically uncomfortable. Sometimes her words were difficult to understand because she was literally speaking through a mouth of rot. Elizabeth knew she needed dental help. The pain kept her awake at night, giving her excruciating toothaches. But she was absolutely terrified of having her teeth pulled. There was no anesthesia, no painkillers, just crude metal instruments wielded by barber surgeons. To convince her it wouldn't kill her, the Bishop of London actually volunteered to have one of his own healthy teeth yanked out right in front of her. She eventually gave in and had one tooth removed, but the experience was so traumatic that she refused any further treatment. She'd rather endure years of agonizing pain than face those pliers again. But here's the most bizarre twist. When the noble women in Elizabeth's court saw her black teeth, they didn't pity her. They copied her. They deliberately blackened their own perfectly healthy teeth with soot and charcoal to match the Queen's look. If the Queen had rotten black teeth, then black teeth became the ultimate fashion statement. That's the twisted power of royalty. Even tooth decay became desirable. The Queen who was afraid of water. Now let's talk about bathing, or rather, the lack of it. There's a famous quote attributed to Elizabeth. "I bathe once every 3 months, whether I need it or not." Whether she actually said this or not, it reveals the shocking reality of royal hygiene. Elizabeth wasn't lazy. She was genuinely terrified of water. People in the Tudor era believed that bathing was dangerous. They thought water opened your pores, which allowed bad air called miasma to seep into your bloodstream and poison you. This invisible deadly vapor was blamed for spreading plagues and diseases. In their minds, taking a bath wasn't healthy, it was potentially lethal. So instead of bathing, Elizabeth had a different routine. She would change her linen undergarments called shifts multiple times a day. People believed that these soft fabrics absorb sweat, dirt, and toxins directly from the skin. No water needed, just fresh cloth. It absolutely wasn't effective. When she did freshen up, she used rose water, vinegar, or herbal mixtures carefully prepared by her royal apothecaries. These were gently dabbed onto her skin by handmaids. It wasn't about hygiene, it was about maintaining appearances. Her body was treated like a sacred relic, too precious for water. But why was bathing such a massive production? Her palaces had no running water, no plumbing. If Elizabeth wanted an actual bath, servants would have to drag out an enormous wooden tub, heat dozens of buckets of water over open fires, carry them up staircases and pour them carefully. It required at least 3 servants and took hours. Bathing wasn't a daily habit, it was a logistical nightmare. Even when she did finally take a bath, which historians estimate happened maybe 4 times a year at most, it was an elaborate event. The tub would be filled with warm water infused with herbs like lavender and rosemary. She'd soak for about an hour, and then she wouldn't bathe again for months. Elizabeth genuinely believed she was clean. She wore hundreds of gowns made from fine silk and velvet. She smelled like flowers and expensive spices. She kept perfumed gloves and scented handkerchiefs. But it was all an illusion. There was no scrubbing, no rinsing, no soap touching her skin. The deadly mask of beauty. If you thought sugar and avoiding baths were bad, wait until you hear about Elizabeth's makeup routine. It might have literally killed her. In 1562, when Elizabeth was only 29, she contracted smallpox. This disease killed 30% of adults who caught it. Elizabeth survived, but the illness left her face covered in deep, permanent scars. For a woman whose beauty had been celebrated across Europe, this was devastating. Enter Venetian ceruse, also called the spirits of Saturn. It was a thick white paste made from white lead sourced from Venice and mixed with vinegar. When applied, it created a flawless, porcelain white finish that completely covered scars and blemishes. In the Elizabethan era, pale white skin represented nobility, purity, and wealth. So Elizabeth began painting her face with this product every single day. There was just one problem. Lead is extremely poisonous. Over time, the Venetian ceruse soaked into her skin. The lead infiltrated her cells, entered her bloodstream, and began slowly destroying her body. It caused terrible rashes, open sores, and scarring. As her real face deteriorated, Elizabeth simply added more layers of makeup, thicker and thicker, until by the end of her life she was reportedly wearing makeup nearly an inch thick. Her face became a frozen, unnatural mask. But the lead wasn't the only poison. For her lips, Elizabeth used bright red lipstick made from cinnabar, a compound containing mercury. Mercury is one of the most toxic substances known to humanity. Prolonged exposure causes memory loss, mood swings, irritability, depression, and trembling hands. Historical records show that Elizabeth exhibited all of these symptoms in her later years. She was literally poisoning herself every day with both lead and mercury. So why didn't she stop? Because her face didn't belong to her anymore. It belonged to England. Her image was her power. It made her seem ageless, godlike, untouchable. She refused to let painters show her real features. Instead, artists were required to use official face patterns, copied from portraits painted when she was younger. No matter how old she got, her official images stayed frozen in time. She even refused to be seen in natural daylight. She conducted most of her business by candlelight and in shadowy rooms. In her final years, courtiers whispered that her face had become so fragile that touching it might cause the makeup to crack and crumble. She barely washed her face. Washing meant removing the mask and revealing the damaged, aging woman underneath. Some historians believe that decades of lead and mercury poisoning contributed directly to her death in 1603 at age 69. Elizabeth chose the mask over her health, perfume over cleanliness. Since Elizabeth avoided water, she developed an entire system built around scent. If she couldn't be actually clean, she'd make sure she smelled clean. Every day, her maids prepared elaborate mixtures: rose water, lavender oil, vinegar infusions, and herbal concoctions. These weren't meant to clean her skin. They were designed to cover up unpleasant odors. A few strategic drops behind the ears, a wipe across the wrists, and she'd drift through her court smelling like a walking flower garden. She carried small ornate balls called pomanders everywhere. These were filled with expensive herbs, spices, and resins. Whenever a foul smell got too close, she'd lift the pomander to her nose. They weren't just for comfort. They were a clear message. I am not like you. I do not smell like the rest of humanity. Even her clothing was part of this performance. Her gloves were soaked in perfume. Her handkerchiefs were drenched in oils. Her heavy gowns were designed to trap scent and hide her body, and her hair, rarely if ever washed. Instead, her hair was stiffened with sugar water and egg whites, then powdered. As she aged and began losing hair, likely from years of poisoning, she switched to elaborate wigs, especially auburn ones that matched her natural color. But underneath all that powder and perfume, her real hair was thinning, damaged, and dirty. Rumors spread about peeling skin, open sores, and a face too damaged to touch. Yet she kept painting it thicker. She even banned mirrors from her private rooms in her later years. No one was allowed to see the truth. Living in a palace that smelled like a sewer. Now let's talk about something truly stomach-turning, the toilet situation. From the outside, Elizabeth's palaces looked like paradise. Massive stone walls, golden ceilings, velvet carpets. But behind that beauty was a reality that would make you gag. There were no toilets, no sinks, no plumbing. Her most private toilet was a fancy wooden chair called a close stool. It looked elegant with velvet cushions and decorative carvings, but underneath was just a ceramic pot for collecting waste, and someone had to empty it by hand. That someone wasn't a lowly servant, it was a position of high honor called the groom of the stool. This was a trusted noble, chosen for loyalty and discretion. He didn't just help the queen use the toilet, he also monitored her bowel movements for signs of illness. In the bizarre world of the Tudor court, being close to the queen during her most intimate times meant being close to power. But the rest of the palace was far more disgusting. There were no flushing toilets anywhere, just chamber pots and buckets scattered throughout. These were dumped into cesspits hidden beneath floors or outside palace walls. The job of cleaning this waste fell to men called gong farmers or night soil men. They worked in darkness, carrying buckets of human filth through narrow hallways. The smell was absolutely horrific and constant. To cover it up, servants burned herbs like lavender and rosemary throughout the palace. They sprinkled flowers on the floors and laid down straw or rushes soaked in oils. But these rushes weren't cleaned regularly. Dirt, hair, food crumbs, and rot accumulated underneath, festering for weeks or months. Even Elizabeth couldn't escape the sting. That's why she moved her entire court from palace to palace throughout the year. It wasn't just for politics, it was to escape the smell. The longer she stayed in one place, the worse the waste problem became. Eventually, the stench would grow so unbearable that the only solution was to pack up everything and move to a fresh palace. This was the true reality of royal life, a world of gold and velvet on the outside, but decay and unbearable smells on the inside. The legacy of a legend. So why did Elizabeth do all of this? Why refuse to bathe? Why poison herself with makeup? Why live in filth while pretending to be perfect? Because she understood something fundamental. Perception is everything. Elizabeth didn't rule by accident. She ruled through calculated strategy. Every choice, from skipping baths to painting her face, was intentional. In a world where a single rumor could destroy a female monarch's legitimacy, Elizabeth made herself into something untouchable. She wasn't just a woman, she was a symbol. She was the Virgin Queen, eternal and perfect. To bathe was to risk washing away that image. Water could smudge her makeup and reveal the scars. A bare face might invite judgment. A visible aging body could destroy the illusion she'd spent decades perfecting. So she chose the mask. She chose the performance. She chose power over comfort. Elizabeth I may not have been clean by today's standards, but she was flawless by design. In her world, soap and water weren't tools of health. They were threats to power. She didn't just survive as a female ruler in a male-dominated world. She mastered the art of being seen without being truly known. And it worked. She ruled for 45 years, defeated enemies, expanded England's power, and became one of history's most legendary monarchs. Sure, her teeth were black, her face was poisoned, and her palaces smelled like sewers. But when she walked into a room, people saw a queen, not a human. They saw power, not weakness. In the end, Elizabeth's true cleanliness wasn't on her skin. It was in her image. And for a queen, image was everything.